Greetings. The purpose of this very short clip is only to highlight a few issues that I hope will be of some interest to you and of some help, obviously, in reading the science section about agriculture. The first thing that comes to mind, obviously, whenever one is talking about agriculture, would be the ability of the world to provide an adequate diet for the 7 billion people that are currently on Earth and the 10 billion people that are projected to be alive in the next century to century and a half. Any serious discussion of these issues should probably highlight, I would say, around 3 to 4 particular issues. The first question that comes to mind will be the issue regarding the availability and the quality of the major two inputs into agriculture. That is to say, does the world have an adequate supply of arable land, of topsoil, and of water in order to irrigate the areas that are to be planted so that we can supply the required amount of food? The second issue that really follows also from this would be the issue of the quantity of food. Studies have shown, beyond the shadow of the doubt, and I don't think anybody really is in a position to contradict this, is that currently we are producing sufficient amounts of food as to provide each and every single individual in the world with a healthy diet. Yet paradoxically, very many regions of the world are suffering of tremendous food insecurity. We have certain regions with abundance of malnutrition and certain other regions with lots of severe hunger. Now that can be explained not by the lack of quantity of food that's being produced, but the question of access. So whenever we speak about food, whether on a regional basis or whether on a global basis, there ought to be made a big distinction between the quantity that is being produced and between the institutional setup that decides how is it that this food is going to become accessible to the people in that particular region. So the issue of hunger and malnutrition currently are really a product of accessibility and not that of production. And so ultimately then the question is going to be what kind of a modification we need to incorporate in the systems right now in order to resolve this issue. So this is not really an issue of quantities, therefore. A second, or a third by now, a third set of circumstances that we need to probably address will be the issue of genetic engineering and genetically modified food. Now, so many people place quite a lot of their hope that we'll be able to come up with certain new crops and we'll be able to modify certain species in such a way as to be able to provide an adequate amount of food in the future. However, these concerns, these issues of GE and GMO raise really a few concerns from the point of view of the safety of the food, from the point of view of the potential damage to the ecosystem, and then obviously there's always the ethical element. Which leaves us with only really one other concern, which in a sense is maybe one of the most important ones, and that is the method of production. So is it enough to know that yes, we can produce enough food, and yes, we will be able to come up with certain modifications to the process of production whereby we're going to be able to maintain all of this production, or an adequate level of production? Or should we be concerned about the technique that is used in order to provide this food? This ultimately boils down to the issue of the contrast between industrial agricultural production and conventional agriculture. The former requires lots of capital, requires tremendous amounts of water, and is very dependent on fertilizers. And so we've got to really be concerned with the issue of sustainability. So it's true that we might be producing right now adequate amounts of food, but can we keep on using this process of production and these techniques into the future without really without any concerns about the sustainability of the system? Because I should probably highlight one other issue, and that is potentially one of the single most polluting activity in the world is that of agriculture, if for nothing else, but obviously for the amount of fertilizer that is being used. Because fertilizer has got to go somewhere, and it winds up in the water table. So I hope that these points will be able to give you some guidance as you are reading this chapter, and I would appreciate if I can hear from some of you in order to tell me whether these short sessions are of any help, or whether we could, or you'd like me to discontinue them and we will just depend on emails and other forms of media. Okay.